What is going on, everybody, and welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. Thank you for joining me for another replay battle. Today I've got a 3 versus 3 good versus evil matchup that's going to be pitting Harad, and actually it's an Eastern Alliance. We got Harad and we got Khand facing down the business end of 3 high-tier Elven armies, which is an interesting matchup for a faction like Harad, especially. Khand is in sort of a similar boat, but they do have some kind of harder units with large shield values that they can fall back on. But Harad is very vulnerable to sustained missile fire because of their low armor, just generally low defensive values across the board. So it'll be interesting to see how the Haradrim players, especially in the early skirmish phase, try to overcome that. But in any case, let's take a look at the army compositions and we can jump into the battle itself. The first army we're looking at today is one of the 2 Haradrim forces, this one being commanded by Mechanic 007. And he's got a very impressive lineup. This is definitely an elf-cracking focused army. He's got a couple units of Trollmen who are, of course, very, very strong. The backbone of this force, 3 HP, AP, really nice melee defense values. So once they get stuck in with the Elven forces, they will be able to hold their own. He's also got some Muhad Berserkers, just really kind of trying to hammer home that AP advantage. He's got, I think, like 3 or 4 units of them. And backing them up, he's got some South-Run Warband, which, little known fact, these guys are actually AP. They're one of the few AP Spear units in the game. I think there's like maybe 2 or 3 others. Most of them are General Bodyguards. So these guys are like, in terms of rank and file troops that are Spears and have AP, they're pretty well unique. I think there's only 1 other unit in the game, the Heavy Goblin Spears, that has that distinct advantage. So it's going to be interesting to see. They've definitely got the tools here to take on some elves in close combat. It's just going to really come down to how well the skirmish phase goes for them. Also got a couple units of Haradrim archers, who low-tier archers. Obviously, I think a lot of money was spent on the Muhads and the Trollmen and things like that. But just with sustained like large mass volley fire, the Haradrim archers definitely can be a useful addition. He's also brought 1 unit of Serpent Bodyguard, which is where his general is going to be hanging out. And I've said it before, and I will say it again. The Serpent Bodyguard are one of the best cavalry units in the game. They are not the strongest, but they are very, very fast, able to outmaneuver their enemies, and get that really nice charge bonus going. I think they've got like 20 charge or something like that. And since they are a bodyguard unit, the trend tends to be that they are also AP in melee, so making them a very scary, very deadly force that is not to be underestimated, and frequently people do. I think when they see the light cavalry tag and people think, oh yeah, it's no problem, it's just, you know, it's just Serpent Guard, they will chew you out. So definitely be cognizant of that whenever you're fighting Harad. Moving over here, we're going to take a look at one of the Khandish armies, this one being commanded by Rohan Knight. He's got like 4 units of Nurad Flibbin, who I believe are AP, one of probably the strongest melee infantry unit that Khand has available to them. Definitely the backbone of any of the infantry forces. He's also got, I think, 3 or 4 units of Nomadic Axemen, so again, more AP. You're seeing a lot of AP being brought here. I got some Haruzi Light Infantry, who are Axes, so I think they're also AP as well. He's got some Brotherhood of the Sword, regrettably not AP, but still, really nice kind of crisis troops. You can use them to punch holes in lines and things like that. They are definitely capable of going toe-to-toe with most of the Elven forces. He's also got some Variag Bowmen, which, again, little known fact, these guys are actually AP in melee. They've got like 16 damage in melee, and it'll have any heavy infantry's armor values, which is really cool to have as well. They've also got about 10 missile damage, putting them definitely in the higher tier of archers. And they've also got a shield as well, so they will be able to stand up to archer fire quite well. So honestly, the Variag Bowmen, one of the more versatile, just generally useful units in the game, and plus they look cool. I mean, check that out. That's a badass model. Also got a couple units, or actually just 1 unit of Brotherhood of the Axe, another AP unit. That's obviously this is very, very focused on trying to take down the heavy infantry that the elves are going to be bringing. In terms of their cavalry, the unit that Khand is most known for, we've got a couple units of Nirniad Cataphracts. Got 1 here, 1 on the other end. These guys they're not bad. I think they have multiple HP and they've got pretty decent armor. They are definitely a mainline kind of Cataphract unit for Khand. In the center over here, he's got 1 unit of Brotherhood of the Lance. These guys have fallen a little bit from previous iterations, like 0.86, for example, where they were definitely among the top tier of heavy cav in the game. They're still pretty good, but they do tend to lose out to other more elite cavalry units. I think Dol Amroth's I think the Dol Amroth Cavalry, the Swan Knight, the Knights of the Silver Swan, rather, can beat these guys out. But all in all, not a bad cavalry unit to have at all. I think that just about does it for the Variag faction. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at the final attacking force here. I guess they're the attacking force. They're kind of evil, so therefore the aggressors or something. I don't know. But in case, the other Haradrim force being commanded by Recrius, bringing some South-Run Warband, some more Muhad Berserkers. It really seems to me that the 2 Haradrim forces have kind of coordinated fairly well. I mean, everybody knows that they're going to be facing the elves and bringing a ton of HP, so you're seeing a lot of overlap in the two Haradrim armies. And if they can link up, they'll be able to support each other very well. But in any case, we'll see what happens with that. A couple units of Southron Lancers here from Recrius, which I thought was an interesting pick. I very rarely see these guys in game, and that's because they are quite vulnerable. It's very easy to shoot them down with missiles, and other heavy cavalry tends to wreck them. But if you can micro them efficiently, they can do a fairly disproportionate amount of damage to the amount of florins it costs to bring them. So if you're hurting for money, it's not necessarily a bad pick. Just make sure you don't leave them in melee for any protracted length of time, because they will fall apart very, very quickly. Over here in the center, we've got some Haradrim Spearmint, just some kind of lighter troops, I think. So possibly Brotsby can spend a little bit more in his elite corps. We've got a couple units here, actually 3 units of Haradrim Archers, and we've got some more Muhads and other things like that over on the other side. He's got 1 unit of Trollmen, 1 unit of Demons of the Desert, who are a sexy, sexy Javelin unit, and they're also pretty good in melee once they've tossed their Javelin payload. I think they've each got like 4 or 5 HP because of their low unit numbers, so it's not easy to shoot these guys down with missiles. They are very lightly armored, however, as you can probably tell by looking at them. But if you can get those Javelin volleys flowing, and then the tears will flow in a proportionate amount, because these guys just do a ton of damage to enemy forces, but you really do have to kind of babysit them a little bit and make sure they don't get shot down. This Haradrim player also bringing a unit of Mumakil, which is a beautiful thing to see. So we're going to see a unit of Mumakil, 1 on either flank. Usually you see like 1 of these guys in a battle, but since we've got the 2 Harad forces, I'm definitely glad that they've brought some Mumakil. Well, that just about does it for the Eastern Alliance. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at what the Elves are bringing to the battle today. The first Elven army we're going to look at today is the Forces of the Woodland Realm, being commanded by Archangel. He's got 1 unit of Elder Pathfinders, who are greatly improved from previous iterations. I don't know if you guys have tuned in to the more recent Reforged videos, but these guys in 0.86 were really not all that great, almost entirely useless, but now they're very fast, and I think they've got some better stat upgrades and things like that now. So getting their charge bonus going, which is indeed what these guys are, they are shock cavalry, don't use them as melee cav. Getting that charge bonus going is a lot easier, I think, than it used to be, because they're, again, a little bit faster. So that's really nice. Not enough of them here, I think. I'm projecting some problems for the Elves, at least on this end. In any case, Archangel's also bringing a unit of Hiri Bang. Everybody loves these guys. They're pretty much your stock standard heavy archer after their run of ammunition. They are pretty strong melee infantry as well. Got a main line here composed of, I think, 2 units of Hiranek. There's, yes, definitely 2 units of Hiranek. Multiple HP spearmen, very reliable, not easy to break. I also got a couple units of Hiri Dirith, who are a really nice kind of mainline infantry unit for the Woodland Realm. They've got really impressive stats, and they can do a lot of damage to any unit that isn't able to overcome their very large melee defense value. Things with a high attack, however, like Temple Inquisitors, for example, will chew through these guys very, very quickly. As with all Elven units, they rely very heavily on their melee defense. So if you can overwhelm that just with sheer numbers, then you can chew through units like the Hiri Dirith. Also got 1 unit, I believe, of Hiri Lang. Or no, we got 2 units of Hiri Lang, so we got some shock troops in here as well. The full complement, you can only take, I think, about 2 each of these units before you get a prohibitive price increase. So we got a lot of heavy infantry here from Archangel. Also, Archangel definitely prepared for those Mumakil. He knows there's 2 Harad players. This is a really nice pick to bring. We got some Elder Royal, or not Elder Royal Council, these are just Elder Council. It's a little bit confusing that way. They are a very strong Javelin unit. I think they've got the highest Javelin damage in the game. They've got about 20 AP damage. So if you toss these into Mumakil, those Mumakil will melt like crazy. They are definitely a hard counter to a lot of the stuff that Harad is bringing. So we'll see if Archangel can really get that moving for him. There's also some hidden units in here. I think he's got some Sentinels of the Woodland Realm and some here. I don't know. There's a couple like ambush units in here. When I see them during the battle, I'll go over them very, very briefly. Moving on now to the center Elven force, that being Lothlorien, commanded by Examar Tot. Lothlorien is an interesting faction. They've got some really cost-effective infantry, but they do kind of lack in certain areas. Their heavy spearmen, for example, do not have multiple HP. At least I'm pretty sure they don't from talking to UMAD Commander. Which makes them a little bit less survivable, but they do make up for it in other ways. They also definitely have some of the weakest cavalry, I think, of the Elven factions, but still, they're still elves. They can still do a lot of damage, and of course, they're very, very quick. So we got a couple units here of Galadriel Mounted Company, who I just love the look of. I mean, they're armed differently. It kind of shows that the Galadriel don't really have necessarily the same cavalry tradition as other units. They look a little bit more irregular, which I think is kind of cool. But in any case, they are very fast, very great harassment cavalry, and they can do a fairly decent amount of damage in melee, but I recommend that you try and support them with something. Moving on over here, we've got some Sylvan Heavy Spearmint. I believe about 2 or 3 units of them composing the front line. It's a little bit of a boxy formation, which I know nobody likes to see, but yeah, that's what we got here right now. Also got a couple units of Sylvan Axemen, who I got to show these guys off for a little bit because I didn't know that they had an armor upgrade. So once you give things armor upgrades, which is a lot easier to do now in 0.91 because the cost of upgrades has been heavily reduced to a flat 25 for everybody. These guys get this cool new model with the masks and stuff like that, and they look a lot like Galadriel from the movie, so I really appreciate that. He's also got a couple units of Sylvan Heavy Archers, 1 unit of Sindar Archers, which surprisingly enough is not where his general is hanging out. But Sindar Archers, I believe, are AP Archers because they're intended to be a general's bodyguard unit, so very strong. These guys can do a lot of work. In behind, we've got 3 units, I believe, of Sylvan Heavy Swordsmen, who are very strong. They're like really good shock troops, and I think that just about does it for his force. He's got Sylvan Axemen, he's got Sylvan Spears and stuff like that. So he's got a really nice heavy infantry force and some decent cavalry as well. The most cavalry, I think, of any of the Elven players. Moving on now to the third and final Elven army, we have Fascist Mongolia, which I like that name. He's got some Elder Lancers. These guys have fallen a little bit farther, I think, than they used to be in like 0.86 and stuff like that. I don't believe they have multiple HP anymore, but they are they're really solid heavy cavalry. And they're, I think reasonably fast, probably among the faster heavy cavalry units. So it is possible to get these guys kind of stuck in and use them properly as heavy lancers without having to worry too much about getting their charge bonus going. He's also got a unit of Smiths of Haradrim. Everybody loves these guys. A couple units of Mithlon Nobles, and a lot of his troops seem to be hiding. But off the top of my head, I think he's also got like some Storm Guard and things like that. But I'll put a little picture there, and you guys can see them, and I'll give you a brief description of the units as we see them in the battle. But in any case, that's it for the army compositions. Let's jump into the replay. I hope you guys enjoy it. So the elves are going to start off by doing something that I think is conventional, and it's definitely not a bad idea, but it's also a little bit ill-advised. But let's take a quick moment here and look at what the rest of the high elves are bringing. You can see some Sindar Blade Masters, Elder Rinway Swords, like 3 units of Nori Tyrno, a bunch of really good stuff, some Sword Quendi in there as well, and I believe like 2 or 3 units of Elder Rinway Spearmint. So it's a solid heavy infantry force. The elves definitely have the heavy infantry, I think, to beat the Haradrim man-to-man, but with those Mumikil and all that extra cavalry that they have, it'll be interesting to see how that happens. But in any case, you can see the elves coming together to fight with their allies, which is a good idea. But because of the low numbers of the elves, and you're going to see it, I think, in just a few moments here, the result of this action of joining their forces is going to leave them vulnerable to a double envelopment, which is a flanking attack simultaneously from both of the flanks, crushing those flanks, rolling up the line, and of course trying to bring in some units in any case from behind, and smashing that main line and precipitating a rout. So it's a good idea for them to come together, and I especially understand the impetus given that those Mumikil are over there, but it is going to have, I think, some consequences for them in this battle. Most of the Elven armies are not really equipped to fight Mumikil. There's only one player, unfortunately, I think, who brought javelins. I mean, he may be the only one who has access to them. I can't remember exactly what the other 2 Elven factions have, but I think bringing a few more of these Elder Council, another unit, definitely would have been useful. But he didn't exactly know how many Mumikil he was going to be facing. So going into the game right now, just speculating, I think that the elves are really going to struggle with those Mumikil because they are living battering rams, and unless you can hard counter them with units like Elder Council or just pepper them down with a ton of missiles really quickly before they get into melee, then they are nearly impossible to deal with for an infantry force because they will just chew through everything. So over here we got Archangel moving forward, getting himself set up to start the skirmish phase. And this formation, I think, could be done a little bit better. Definitely needs to be spread out, I think, a little bit more, but I think the impetus for this is just getting a few quick pot shots off, because you can see that the Haradrim and their Khandish allies are really just going for a rush. They want to get in there. They know they're weak to missiles, and they don't want to give the elves the opportunity to kind of just pepper them down. So they're just going to go for it. Alright, so let's go ahead and let's slow this down a little bit and take a look all along the line. The South-Run Warband, of course, going to be the first into the breach, charging hard into battle against these Hiranek. This is not a bad idea at all. Getting all of these Warband just kind of stuck in gives the Haradrim player an opportunity to kind of support where needed, where the South-Run Warband tend to be flagging the most, and he can do that with his Muhad Berserkers or with his Trollmen and things like that. So it's not a bad idea at all. Let's get in there for this beautiful charge. Aw, they stopped. Why would you do this? That just makes everybody really sad. Looking like a little bit of a micro mistake here on the part of Archangel, getting those Woodland Sentinels a little bit too far forward. And with the line of Exomar Tot falling back, he's going to get those guys caught out a little bit against those Haruzi Light Infantry. Now, they will do a lot of damage to the Haruzi Light Infantry, but I think Archangel's going to try and pull them out of there as quickly as possible and try and minimize his casualties. But damn, these Woodland Sentinels have gotten cut up, lost almost about half the unit already. You can see all along the line, the Haradrim are getting in there, and they're not doing terrible. You can see the defeat apparently a certainty. It's that AP bonus and just the sheer weight of numbers they can bring to bear against the Elves. And look at this. Let's slow it down just a little bit. We're already starting to see that double envelopment take place. The main line has now been tied down, except for over here where the Haradrim are still moving themselves into place. But over on this end, you can see those Mumakil getting ready, going in behind the lines. The Haradrim player here, I believe this is Recrius. Yes, indeed it is. He's done a great job at holding down this line and engaging the Elven forces and keeping them pinned in place. So the Elves now are going to have to commit some of their reserves. You can see Fascist Mongolia has brought over a couple units of Mithlon nobles, but they are not going to be in a good position. It looks like Archangel already got his javelins going. This attack from Recrius here, maybe not going to go the way that he hopes it is. Oh, those Mumakil just dying like dogs. You can see the Haradrim cavalry trying to push through those Mithlon nobles, get into those Elder Council, but it is way too late. Most of that Mumakil unit has already been decimated, so just a few moments more, maybe those cavalry could have got in there and tied down those Elder Council and given the Mumakil a chance to really be a nuisance. But now I think about 3/4 of that unit have already fallen, which is a big loss. This is a 3,000 gold unit. It's not fun to lose it that way. This one unit of Mumakil, though, just going absolutely ham on the main line. Which honestly is a good thing, because the Elves are definitely in command of this fight. This is where Elven units are most at home in a straight-up fight like this with lightly armored units. Oh man, look at the damage that Mumakil is causing those Woodland Sentinels. Recrius just trying to weaken that Elven skirmish force and eliminate that advantage, which is going to give the Haradrim, I think, the ability to win this battle. They've got the infantry, they've got the numbers, and they've got the AP to smash through this Elven line. It is going to cost a lot of lives, but if they can completely silence the archers, then I think they're going to have a great chance to pull out a victory in this one. Sylvan Heavy Archers now getting charged by those Southron Lancers, doing a lot of damage to them, a surprising amount. But like I said, the Southron Lancers not meant for this kind of fight. I mean, it says victory, but honestly, that's because there's a Mumakil in there doing a lot of damage. And the entire Elven skirmish line just being completely held up at this point by only a few units. There's like 4 or 5 units in there. Looks like the Elves are going to finally manage to take down that Mumakil, and the Southron Lancers are going to be forced to retreat after sustaining very heavy losses. Again, they can't stand up in this kind of fight, but they did manage to inflict some fairly decent casualties on the Elves and tie up their skirmish lines long enough, I think, to enact some other plans. And you can see that beginning to materialize right here. A couple units of Nurniag Cataphracts charging hard into battle against the Elves. You can see a countercharge here from the Elder Rinway Swordsman is going to see those guys off. But I think those Nurniag Cataphracts are still hungry. Another charge here going in to the Elder Rinway Swordsman. This is something they are very weak to. Look at the casualties mounts. Over here we're seeing the same thing. Another beautiful charge here. Fabulous horse micro on the part of Rohan Knight. Really paying off for them. Managing to take a nice bite out of those Elven reserves. These Elder Rinway Swordsmen, very expensive, very powerful. And that's going to pull a lot of support, I think, off of the main line. The Elven reserve's already under attack. And look at this. Their skirmish forces just don't seem to have an answer to these Haradrim archers. They're just expendable archers that can do a decent amount of damage when well positioned. You can see them firing into the flank and rear. Beautiful enfilading fire going across the widest axis of these units. That is going to prove to be a real big problem for these Nora Eternal Warriors over here. Just getting showered, and it's really starting to take its toll. Look at this. Quite a lot of these Nora Eternal Warriors have died already. Some really cheap Haradrim archers. So yeah, heavy archers, they are good, but they don't always... They can be countered by less expensive units. Over here on the flanks, we can see some of these Sword Quendi fighting hard against the Southron Warband. This is a really nice unit to toss against Southron Warband. They don't have a ton of armor, but what they do have is melee defense and nice attack. And of course, they're very expendable light infantry units. So if you lose them to the Southron Warband, or if they take really serious casualties like they have done, then it's no big loss and you've countered a serious threat. This is a nice play here on the part of Fascist Mongolia, really picking his fights well for that light unit. Over here we got some Muhad Berserkers fighting against the Smiths of Eredin. These guys are AP, but you know what? That's not going to be an easy fight. Let's speed up just a little bit here and enjoy the carnage. Just a quick look here all along the line. You can see the Elder Rinway Spearmen holding really well against these Muhad Berserkers. Those Muhads are not going to be able to get through there, not with the massive amount of defense that those Spearmen bring to bear. Look at this. They've taken nearly 0 casualties at this point. All along the line, the Sylvan Axemen beating back these Haradrim light troops. Now with the addition of some of these Khandish footmen, though, I think we're going to start to see that turn around, especially right here on this in this particular section of the battlefield. You can see that those Narod footmen have managed to kind of catch these Sylvan Axemen out of formation, and they're beginning to wrap around them. These guys getting flanked hard, but the High Elf player sees what's happening and it wisely commit his Sundar Blade Masters alongside some Elder Rinway heavy swordsmen. I think that's going to be enough to beat back those Narod footmen. Let's just continue our journey here all the way down the line. You can see Elven reinforcements pouring onto the main line. They really want to finish up this infantry fight. If they can finish the infantry fight with a strong force left over, all of the rest of the Haradrim cavalry and things like that is not going to amount to anything. Those cavalry can't kill all these elves, especially if the elves are countercharging them. They will lose just through sheer attrition. Elves doing really well, most places on the line, still holding out, although the Hiranek here are beginning to struggle just under the weight of all of this. Look at that line slowly beginning to thin out, and pretty soon it's going to start to buckle. We got some Haradrim archers looking like they're out of ammo, charging into battle over here on the flanks. Things have been decisive for the elves. Hiri Lang alongside their Sindar Blademaster brothers have really cleaned up, but look at this! The Mumakil coming in to just even out this fight. That line now in ruins. So many of those Hiri Deer just being knocked around like rag dolls. Mumakil definitely being used very effectively. Look at that, another beautiful charge. Just mashing up the Elven lines, allowing the Allied forces the opportunity to just get in there and inflict casualties. Look at this. Look at the devastation that this is causing. This Mumakil just knocking everybody around. That is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Now they're getting into the back lines, where there's a lot of Elven skirmishers who are looking like they only just got themselves back online. I'm beginning to return fire to some of the Haradrim archers and maybe deal with the Brotherhood of the Lance as they move in. Looks like they've taken some fairly significant casualties at this point. But those Mumakil just not going to let them have the moment that they need to try and pull this battle away from the precipice of defeat. The elves are still winning over here on the infantry fight, but how long is that going to last with these Mumakil just running these hit-and-run strikes against the elves? The elves, very numerous at this point, but bunched up, and really this is going to be an ugly thing once those Mumakil start swinging. Oh, a beautiful hammer and anvil here from the Brotherhood of the Lance. Meanwhile, those Mumakil wreaking havoc, and the Elven flank is being pressed by the Trollmen of Harad. This is some beautiful teamwork here. Very, very good use of unit strengths, and an excellent job kind of pinning their opponents in place, not allowing them to respond effectively. Let's see what we got going on over here. Looks like the Elven cavalry still around. The Elder Pathfinders looking like they want to get a piece, I think, of these Haradrim archers. Look at this, though. Recrius very wisely kept a number of Haradrim spearmen in reserve, and they're going to be here to defend the Haradrim archers. This is a good idea. On the main line, these Haradrim spearmen would just get massacred. But out here against a unit of cavalry like this, they are going to be useful. And look at this. A beautiful attack from two sides. Going to pin those Elven Pathfinders in place, and they're not going to have a good time with this. It says victory seems certain for them, but honestly, through sheer weight of numbers, another unit of Haradrim spearmen pouring in here. That is going to shut down these Elven cavalrymen very, very quickly. You can already see some of the Sylvan Pathfinders beginning to fall. And there goes one of the Sylvan Elf generals. I think that was Archangel's general falling in battle with his Hiri Lang bodyguard. Oh man, I think this is where it happened. Let's take a look now on the main line. You can see the Woodland Realms beginning to buckle. These Hiri Bang and Hiranek are really struggling against these Haradrim spearmen, who are just pushing them hard. These Nurad footmen now just looking to break through the line through sheer mass. The Elven line starting to crumble. I don't know how they're going to come back from this. Look at this. These Mumakil still active. The High Elves are only just managing to deal with them. They've definitely come out, I think, strong on this end. Oh, look at this. We've got some Hashari here for Mechanic. I totally forgot about these guys. They can hide just about anywhere. Yeah, the Hashari now pinning the rest of these victorious Elven troops in place. This, I think, is an overcommitment, but the Hashari are quite strong, so it's hard to kind of gauge that when you're in-game. Elder Rinway Spearmen here, still dealing with the Muhad Berserkers and that Southron Warband combo. This is really proving to be a nightmare for the High Elves. Elder Rinway Spearmen, though, definitely living up to their fierce reputation, holding the line against Trollmen, against Southron Warband, and against Muhad Berserkers. There are some pockets of where the elves seem to have won, but I think with some of the addition of these Khandish reserves here, like the Brotherhood of the Sword, for example, maybe that will start to turn around. Though the elves are managing to surround them quite nicely, so I think those Brotherhood of the Sword are really going to struggle, actually, in that particular engagement. See some mainline troops here, some Sylvan Heavy Archers looking like they're out of ammo, being pulled off the line to try and deal with the Mumakil. Another one now fallen in battle to the Elder Council. Looks like they managed to get a nice little javelin volley off, but the second Mumakil is going to come in, silence them. There's only about 10 of them left. If they can get moving and toss one more volley, then they will be able to deal with that Mumakil. Oh, here we got a few just like very sparse units of cavalry. We got the Serpent Bodyguard launching hammer and anvil strikes on what remains of the elves. There's just chaos and bedlam everywhere. So many things happening at once. It looks like the Nurad Footmen have managed to break through the Elven line alongside the Brotherhood of the Axe, and they are slowly wiping out Elven resistance behind the lines. This really seemed to turn around very, very quickly once those Mumakil were engaged. There's only just isolated pockets of Elven resistance now that's managed to hold the line, and elsewhere the Haradrim have fully broken the Elven lines. You can see over here on the Elven right flank, things have just fallen apart. The lines have been completely shattered. There's no elves left living. If you're an Elven player, that's very tragic. But from my perspective, this was glorious, glorious carnage. The Haradrim now focusing all of their forces on the center, where the elves still hold them at bay. But it's only going to be a matter of time now before these elves find themselves surrounded. Let's get right in there. Enjoy some of this action. One of the last major pockets of Elven resistance, really pressing the Brotherhood of the Sword quite hard. But you can see Demons of the Desert. You can see Trollmen. You can see all that trouble up there on the horizon. Oh, look at that Brotherhood of the Sword. It's getting hacked down by that Sindar Blade Master. Wonderful. The Haradrim just pouring in, just in massive blobs. Because we got some Variag Bowmen putting fire into the unprotected flanks of the elves. The Haradrim and the Southrons really just kind of taking these elves for all that they're worth. Small pocket of Eldarin with Spearmint over here. Looks like they managed to kill the Mumakil. And now just wiping out what remains of the Southron Warband, trying to link up with their brothers over here, surrounded by Trollmen and Southrons. It's looking very ugly. All behind the back lines. I don't think I see any more elves living. It's a very, very brief but very bloody struggle. Let's take a look there at the percentages killed. I mean, the elves really got outmaneuvered in this battle. I think a lot of that has to do with the Mumakil. But the Haradrim and Khandish armies really were focused on taking down elves. A lot of AP and things like that. So the elves made them pay dearly for it. But ultimately the Haradrim, I think, did a really good job at shutting down any elven advantages that were present, like the large presence of archer companies and things like that, using their Mumakil, using their expendable cavalry and things like that, and eventually they were just able to wear down the Elven line and then cut down the archers, which you can see them doing right here, without the archers really managing to do a whole lot. These Sindar archers holding back just a massive Haradrim spearmen. Let's go ahead and let's fast forward that a little bit. The Sindar archers trying to get out of there, maybe reposition themselves, maybe link up with some remaining elves. There goes the High Elven General. Oh no, maybe that's the Khandish General. So the Khandish General has actually fallen in battle to the High Elves. I'm not sure what the Sindar Archers are doing. Maybe trying to fall back, maybe link up with the rest of their unit or something. But definitely not doing themselves any favors by walking away from this blob. Hammer and Anvil attack here, going in to what remains of the Elder Rinway. Smiths of Eredin still holding things at bay. It's really only a matter of time, though. Oh man, this is a brutal fight here. This Brotherhood of the Lance actually managed to take down with the Smiths of Eredin. Gotta pull out of there as quickly as possible. Most of the Haradrim and Khandish cavalry has been swiftly dealt with, so the elves did a great job at doing that. But there was just too many numbers arrayed against them. I think part of the problem was the Elven composition. There was a lot of heavy infantry, and I know it's very... When you see the stats on Elven units, it is very tempting to bring as much of that as you can. Just put it all into your cart and throw it out at your enemies on the battlefield. But I think the elves, in this case, given that Khand and Harad are very much a horde faction, they definitely needed some more efficient rosters, some more sword quendi and things like that. And yeah, just taking a very similar approach, I think, to what the Haradrim and the Khandish forces did. Oh, check this out. A few Sylvan Heavy Archers here fighting in the shade of these Mumakil corpses, being held at bay by these South-run warband, just hundreds of them, backed up by some South-run archers. Let's enjoy this last stand. Slowly being pressed, and looks like those units are going to try and flee across those across the corpses of those Mumakil, but they are going to get trapped there. I think it's safe to say that most of the elves have been wiped out at this point. So we got an admit defeat there from one of the Elven players, and that is going to be the end of it. Very good job to everybody involved. I think the elves, they had some composition problems, and that was really what killed them in the end. And of course, there was some great teamwork and great gameplay on the part of the Eastern Alliance. So great job to everybody involved. I hope you guys enjoyed this replay. It's a little bit shorter, I think, than most of ours, but that just means that I can do things like this more often instead of our hour-and-a-half replays, which not everybody likes to sit through. But in any case, my name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you later. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.